So we're in Clovis, California. We just finished installing a little hose shut-off valve on this back hose bib. We were contracted to repair these. Unfortunately, these are sweat style hose bibs. That's a 3/4 coupling stubbed out of the wall. One side of the fitting is buried in stucco. The other side is out here, which is fine. Whenever you heat a fitting that's been soldered, it loosens all the solder, not just where you want. What we would normally do is go ahead and heat it right here, pull the bib out, put an adapter on, screw a new bib on, and not a multi-turn valve, a 1/4 turn, similar to what you see here. We can't do that because we can't heat this and then be comfortable with the fact that the other side of the fitting is buried in stucco. Too much heat in there, you got a leak on the back side of the fitting, and you can't really monitor that. You might be able to see something rolling out, but anyways, once you start heating that, you're into the project regardless. If something goes south, worst case scenario, you're cutting stucco to get back over to the stub out to try and do a repair. We don't want to do that. That's a very painful process. So what we did offer the homeowner at the front and all three is just to put an adapter on here. The only problem was you had water leaking out of the packing nut, and normally you can get this packing nut tightened down and you're not going to have any water through here. What happens over a period of time, you got calcium buildup in there, so scale builds up on the components. Not only does the rubber gasket down here begin to fail and it begins to drip, but also water begins to come out of here, and it just becomes hard to function without more water sitting on here, more calcification. So anyways, this is tightened down. You could certainly take this off and just use the bib, but it's a little harder to function now because it's tighter packing nut, and then on and off, on and off, on and off, you're going to at some point develop a leak again. Now we don't want to have to do any, we don't want to touch this. We want to leave that alone. We want that to sit there forever and never have to touch it, because honestly, the rebuild parts, they're not available for this. 15-20 years ago, we don't have packing nuts. We don't have the gaskets in here. We don't have the little rubber seat that sits in the bottom. None of that. They're not compatible. So short story long, actually. This was what we decided on. Leave the bib on, leave the handle alone. Functionality is right there, so your hose works. This is great. It's 1/4 turn on, 1/4 turn off. There's no leaking out of this one. This one was damaged. The threads on here from the anti-siphon valve that was on here that's required by code, they've all been removed, and what happens, there's a set screw that goes through the brass and anchors it to the bib so that you can't remove it. Well, they removed it, and it flattened out all the threads. I'm not going to take this off and show you, but this one was the worst. The others fit just fine. So this is screwed on there. We had to pull back the rubber here and actually get a wrench on the brass portion, you can see there, and tighten it down so the gasket would seat so there's no dripping. Monitor this one on the back right here. Right here on the very bottom right there. If you get any moisture at all, then we need to tighten it down some more. And like I said, we're not going to charge you for labor on these. Point of courtesy, 3 hose bibs. Typically, $50 to $75 each, and that's a fair price. We're just going to charge you for that. That's all. Same thing you could do. Go to the hardware store, buy that, screw it on there, and then tighten this up. So, anyways, no leaking there. That's one, and then there's 2 more out front. So we're going to leave that guy alone. Water's all the way on. No leaking out of the packing net. No leaking out of the connection right here. So that one's good. And then there's 2 more. So we're going to leave that guy alone, and that one's good. There's one on the side yard, and this screwed on pretty well, and also the packing nut tightened up. So like I say, if it works, don't fix it. I used to not believe that, but we've gotten into projects where we start to take something apart, and then the project starts going badly, and next thing you know, you're hundreds of dollars later. I'm not happy, the homeowner's not happy, so this is our resolution for the problem. So no water here, which is great. There's no water coming out of here. This is just a rubber gasket, similar to having a garden hose on. That's exactly what this is right here. And underneath like I say, underneath the rubber is brass, is solid brass construction. And then a 1/4 turn valve, that guy you can see, and that's a nice flow. So 1/4 turn shut off, stainless steel ball in here. So this, you shouldn't ever have any trouble with that. So leave that guy alone. You feel free to use it, but if it starts leaking again, we'll have to try and tighten it some more. Unfortunately, the tighter you get, the more chance you run of stripping this nut off of there. Now you got to get back into there. This coupling is stubbed out a little bit further, but you can see it's still too close to the wall. There's some tape covering this, which is required when you're putting stucco around copper, so that would have to be peeled back. That joint sits right there. We wouldn't try and unsolder this, just because, you know, like I say, we can run into some real trouble with that. So one more out front. Let's take a video of that, just so we got it on camera, what we did. And so there's the one on the front. So these are all nice. Like I say, everything's dry. You can see that bib, packing net, nice and dry. Bib is on, no dripping out of the back right there. And this one, like I say, it's just a hose washer that sits in there. And you can take these off, you know, at any point. You can do whatever you want to do now, but you don't have the dripping that you had when you turned the faucet on. Now it's just quarter turn on, quarter turn off. Good. So I think that resolves our issue here. Outside of that, this installation is done.